Have you ever, like, looked at a rose bush and seen those thorns or, like, those needles on a pine tree?
Yeah?
And you're like, whoa, okay, stay away from that. I'm not gonna mess with that.
Right.
But what if those were, like, more than just defense mechanisms? What if they're actually, like,
Right.
part of some way more complex system?
Hmm.
What if they were, like, tuning into and managing electrical energy?
It's so interesting, right?
Yeah, like, is that even possible?
I mean, it's definitely a question worth exploring.
It's crazy to think about, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like plants being so in tune with like the energy around them.
Yeah, and not just like sunlight, which we obviously know they use for photosynthesis,
Right.
but like the actual electrical fields and charges in the atmosphere.
Yeah, so that's what we're diving into today.
That's right.
We're going to be looking at a bunch of different plants.
Yeah, all kinds.
Like evergreens, succulents, vines, you name it.
Polycacti.
The whole deal.
We're even going to look at like the concept of a bio-inspired atmospheric energy harvester, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, like can we actually learn from plants and like use their secrets to like create new energy technologies?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, so basically we're on a mission to figure out how and why this connection between a plant's structure and energy exists.
And maybe even more importantly, what it means for us.
Right, because this could totally change how we see the natural world.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first let's talk about like the obvious thing.
Okay.
The spikes in the needles.
The pointy bits.
Yeah, we usually think of them as like, defense.
Right, keep away.
Yeah, but what if they're doing something more?
Well, there are some really interesting observations that suggest they might be.
Okay, like what?
Well, think about evergreens, for example.
Okay, like pine trees.
Pines, firs, that prickly holly you see around the holidays. They all have those needle-like leaves.
Right, and that's mostly so they don't lose as much water.
Yeah, it reduces their surface area, which is important in cold or dry climates.
Makes sense.
But now, think about the shape of those needles.
They're long and pointy.
Exactly. And that shape could actually influence how they interact with electrical charges,
Really?
especially when there's moisture or static in the air.
Like, how does that work?
Well, it's kind of like a lightning rod.
Oh, wow.
Not on the same scale, of course.
Right, a pine needle isn't going to attract a bolt of lightning.
But the principle is similar.
Okay.
The pointed shape can attract and distribute electrical charge.
So even those tiny little charges in the air,
Yeah, the ones we don't even really notice.
they could be interacting with the shape of the plant?
Exactly.
It's like the plant is subtly shaping its own electrical environment.
In a way, yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Okay, so we've got evergreens.
Right.
What about other spiky plants?
Well, let's look at vines and holly bushes.
Okay, both pretty prickly.
Yeah, they've got those thorns and those sharp, jagged edges.
To keep animals away.
Right, that's the main idea.
But could those shapes also be helping the plant move electrical charge around?
That's what some researchers are suggesting.
Like the spikes are part of some kind of internal electrical pathway.
It's possible, yeah.
And wouldn't that be like a huge advantage for the plant?
Well, think about it. Plants are actually part of the Earth's electrical circuit.
What?
Yeah, their roots are grounded in the soil, and they're constantly interacting with the atmosphere's electric field.
So it's like the whole planet is this massive electrical system.
In a way, yeah, and plants are plugged right into it.
Wow.
So those thorns and spikes, they could be acting like little conductors or insulators,
Oh, I see.
helping the plant to control how charge flows through its stems and leaves.
So they're like fine-tuning their own internal electrical landscape.
Exactly. It's like they're optimizing their connection to the Earth's electrical network.
That's so cool.
That's right.
All right, so we've talked about evergreens and vines.
Right.
What about cacti?
Ah, yes, the kings and queens of spines.
Yeah, they're covered in them.
And for good reason.
To save water in the desert.
Right. Those spines minimize water loss.
But they could also be doing double duty as charge collectors,
That's the theory.
especially in the desert where there's all that static electricity.
Yeah. The dry air and dust storms create a lot of electrical activity,
So the spines could be like little antennas,
picking up charge from the atmosphere.
and maybe even using that charge for something.
That's the question, isn't it?
It's like we're starting to see plants in a whole new way,
Right. Not just as passive things soaking up sunlight,
but as active participants in their electrical environment,
interacting with the charges around them.
and maybe even using those charges to their advantage.
Exactly.
So we've got needle-like leaves acting as tiny antennas, and spines and thorns creating microcharge gradients.
Potentially even ionizing the air around them.
It's like plants are part of this invisible electrical network.
A network that we're only just beginning to understand.
Okay, so how do different types of leaves play into this?
Well, it's interesting when you compare deciduous trees to evergreens.
Deciduous trees are the ones that lose their leaves in the fall, right?
That's right.
So they have those big flat leaves for most of the year.
Perfect for capturing sunlight.
Oh, right, but then they drop them.
And the evergreens keep their needles year-round.
So maybe those different loose structures are related to how they interact with electrical charge.
It's a possibility.
Like maybe the deciduous trees need those big leaves to create a lot of charge separation.
And then when they drop their leaves, it's like a reset for their electrical system.
Like a way to conserve energy during the winter when they're not photosynthesizing.
Exactly.
And the evergreens, they need a more stable charge flow throughout the year.
So those needles might help them reduce charge leakage and conserve moisture.
Especially in those harsh conditions.
Right, where solar energy isn't always reliable.
So it's like each type of leaf is adapted to its own specific electrical environment.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is.
This whole idea of like electrical optimization driving evolution.
Yeah, what if plants are evolving not just to survive physically, but also to be more electrically efficient?
Like natural selection. Favoring plants that are better at managing their charge.
So those spikes and needles, they're not just for defense.
They could be giving plants a real electrical advantage.
Especially those plants that keep them year-round.
Like holly and pines and firs.
They might need those structures to handle the electrical conditions in cold, dry air.
Which can hold a lot of static charge.
So it's a trade-off, right?
Exactly.
The energy cost of growing and maintaining those structures.
Versus the benefit of being able to manage charge efficiently.
And in those tough environments, that benefit might outweigh the cost.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've also got vines.
Right, those climbers.
And they grow in these spiral patterns.
Those beautiful fractal-like patterns.
Which we usually think of as a way to climb and get more sunlight.
Right, maximizing their exposure.
But what if those patterns are also aligned with the electromagnetic flows in their environment?
Like they're following invisible energy currents.
Yeah, like they're not just reaching for light, but also for energy.
It's a really interesting idea.
But how do we know if it's for light or energy or both?
Well, it's probably a combination of factors.
Okay.
The spiral growth definitely helps them climb and find support.
Right.
But that same spiral shape could also influence their interaction with electromagnetic fields.
Kind of like how a coiled antenna can pick up certain frequencies.
Exactly. It's about optimizing their connection to the energy around them.
So it's not an either situation.
Right. It's more like they're getting the best of both worlds.
Using their structure to maximize both light and energy absorption.
It's a brilliant example of nature's efficiency.
And there's even research that shows some trees have natural voltage gradients.
Like an electrical potential difference between their roots and their highest branches.
So they're like natural batteries.
In a way, yeah.
That's wild.
It's like they're tapping into the Earth's electrical field.
And using it to power their own internal processes.
Potentially, yeah.
And could those spikes and needles be playing a role in that?
It's possible they could be influencing how that voltage gradient is distributed throughout the tree.
Like acting as terminals or points of interaction with the atmosphere's electric field?
Exactly.
Okay, so now I'm a little confused.
Okay, what's up?
We know light is essential for plants.
Right.
And light is a form of electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah,
But one of our sources says that light itself is electrically neutral.
that's right. Light is made up of photons which don't carry an electrical charge.
So how do plants take this neutral energy and turn it into the energy they need to live?
That's the key question, isn't it?
They can't just be like absorbing a neutral particle and boom, you've got charged energy.
Right. It's more complicated than that.
Okay, so what's actually happening?
Well, plants have this amazing ability to use light energy to separate charges within their own cells.
Oh, I see.
So they're not charging the light itself.
Right.
They're using the energy from the light to create charge differences.
Okay, so walk me through this.
Sure, so it all starts with photosynthesis.
Okay, the process where plants use sunlight to make food.
Exactly. And it happens inside these little organelles called chloroplasts.
Oh, yeah, I remember those from biology class.
Inside the chloroplasts, you have chlorophyll molecules.
The stuff that makes plants green.
Right. And those chlorophyll molecules absorb photons of light.
Oh,
And when a photon hits a chlorophyll molecule, it excites an electron.
like gives them more energy.
Exactly. And that energized electron then moves through a chain of protein molecules.
Called the electron transport chain.
Right. And as the electron moves through this chain, it releases energy.
Then what happens to that energy?
It's used to pump protons across a membrane.
Protons are like positively charged hydrogen ions, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And this pumping action creates a difference in electrical potential across the membrane.
Like a separation of charge,
Exactly, and that difference in charge is then used to drive the synthesis of ATP.
which is like the energy currency of the cell.
Right, it's what powers all those cellular processes.
So plants aren't charging the light itself. They're using the energy from the light to create charge differences within their own cells.
Precisely, they're manipulating charges to create a kind of electrical pressure.
And then they use that pressure to power their cellular machinery.
It's a really ingenious system.
It is.
Plants are like tiny little electrical engineers.
Okay, so we've talked about spikes and needles and different types of leaves.
Right.
What about those fractal branching patterns we see in so many plants?
Ah, yes, the beautiful patterns of nature.
Like the way leaf veins spread out or the branches of a tree.
Or even the florets in a sunflower.
Those patterns are everywhere.
And they're not just pretty to look at.
Right, they're incredibly efficient.
For distributing resources.
Like water and nutrients.
And also for maximizing surface area for light absorption.
So they're like multi-purpose designs.
Exactly.
But how do they connect to this idea of charge flow?
Well, those fractal networks could also provide pathways for electrical signals and ions to move through the plant.
So it's like an electrical grid that mirrors the physical structure.
Exactly, and that could be really important for how plants respond to their environment.
Like imagine a signal traveling from the roots to the leaves.
Or from one leaf to another.
Those fractal patterns would allow that signal to travel quickly and efficiently.
And maybe even influence the plant's growth and development.
So it's like another layer of complexity.
Adding to the amazing sophistication of plants.
And there's a difference between deciduous trees and evergreens here too, right?
Right, the deciduous trees with their extensive branching networks.
They might be optimized for rapid charge separation during the growing season.
And then when they drop their leaves, it's like a reset for their electrical system.
Like they're getting rid of all that extra wiring.
And then in the spring, they grow new leaves and start the process all over again.
And the evergreens, they have those needles, which are more about conserving moisture and preventing charge leakage.
Right, maintaining a more stable internal charge system throughout the year.
So again, it's about different strategies for different environments.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about succulents?
Those masters of water conservation.
Yeah, they don't have those big branching networks.
Right, they've gone for a different approach.
So how do they fit into this electrical picture?
Well, succulents are all about minimizing water loss.
Right.
And water is a really good conductor of electricity.
Oh, I see.
So their compact shapes and thick tissues might help them create a more localized and stable electrical environment.
Like they're controlling the flow of charge within their cells.
Exactly. And that could be really important in those dry desert conditions.
Where every drop of water counts.
And where charge can easily dissipate into the dry air.
So they're like little self-contained electrical systems.
Perfectly adapted to their harsh environment.
It's amazing how much we can learn from plants.
They're truly remarkable organisms.
And speaking of learning from plants,
What about it?
scientists are actually trying to mimic how plants interact with electrical charge.
Yeah, to create new energy technologies.
Like that bio-inspired atmospheric energy harvester we talked about earlier.
Right, the idea is to tap into the ambient electrical energy in the atmosphere.
And use it to generate power.
Exactly. And the bio-inspired approach is all about learning from nature.
Like how do plants collect and manage charge?
And can we replicate those strategies in our own designs?
So how would this energy harvester actually work?
Well, the design is based on the structures we see in trees and cacti and vines.
Okay.
It would use spike-like nanostructures, kind of like the needles on a pine tree.
To collect charge from the air.
Right, and those nanostructures would be made from materials that are really good at attracting charge.
Like what?
Things like titanium dioxide-coated graphene.
Interesting.
And just like a tall tree,
Mm.
this harvester would need to be pretty tall.
To access the higher electrical potential in the atmosphere.
Exactly, 10 to 20 meters is the ideal range.
Wow, it's like a small building.
Yeah, and it would be grounded just like a plant's roots.
To complete the circuit.
Right, and it would also have a fractal wire network
Like the branching patterns of a tree.
to distribute the collected charge efficiently,
So it's like a miniature electrical ecosystem.
mimicking the strategies of plants.
And how much power could something like this actually generate?
Well, the estimates are pretty promising.
Okay.
1 to 3 kilowatts at peak output.
And how much is that in like everyday terms?
Enough to power a small home or a few appliances.
Wow.
And under optimal conditions, it could produce 5 to 10 kilowatt hours of energy per day.
That's a lot of clean, renewable energy.
And it's all thanks to the inspiration we get from plants.
So we could potentially have these energy harvesting trees all over the place.
Imagine entire forests generating power from the air.
It's a pretty amazing vision for the future.
And it's not just science fiction. It's something that researchers are actively working on.
That's so exciting.
It is, right?
It's like the potential is huge.
Especially in areas with high humidity or frequent storms.
Where there's more atmospheric charge available.
Exactly.
And there's even a more advanced design called the quantum optimized atmospheric energy harvester.
Ah, yes, pushing the boundaries of efficiency even further.
Using principles from quantum mechanics and advanced materials science.
It's about taking those bio-inspired ideas to the next level.
So what makes this quantum design so special?
Well, it focuses on three key areas.
Okay.
Enhanced charge collection,
Okay.
intelligent environmental tracking,
Yeah.
multimodal energy capture.
So it's not just mimicking the forms of plants.
Right.
It's about understanding and replicating their energy interaction principles at a really fundamental level.
Exactly.
Okay, so break those three areas down for me.
Sure. So quantum enhanced charge collection means using things like quantum dot coatings and nanostructured surfaces.
To capture charge more effectively.
Right.
And intelligent environmental tracking.
That's where AI comes in.
AI.
Yeah, artificial intelligence algorithms would analyze real-time atmospheric conditions.
And adjust the harvester's operation to maximize energy capture.
Exactly.
So it's like the harvester is learning from its environment.
And adapting to get the most energy possible.
And multimodal energy capture.
That means combining different charge generation methods within a single device.
So it's not just relying on one method.
Right. It's about being adaptable and efficient.
And what about the materials used in this advanced design?
They're pretty cutting edge.
Okay.
Things like quantum tunneling interfaces.
To improve charge transfer.
Right. And piezoelectric materials.
Which generate charge in response to mechanical stress.
Exactly. And graphene-enhanced polymers.
For their amazing conductivity and flexibility.
They're all about maximizing the efficiency of the harvester.
So how much better would this quantum design be compared to the original one?
Well, the estimated daily energy generation could increase to 15 to 25 kilowatt hours.
That's almost triple the original design.
And the energy conversion efficiency could go up to 35 to 45%.
Wow, that's a big jump.
It's all about pushing the limits of what's possible.
And where would these quantum harvesters work best?
Anywhere with a lot of atmospheric charge.
Like coastal regions?
Right.
High altitude areas?
Places with frequent storms.
High humidity?
Exactly. Those are the sweet spots.
And there are even more futuristic technologies on the horizon.
Like quantum charge concentration.
And advanced AI integration.
It's like we're on the verge of a whole new era of energy harvesting.
Inspired by the plants all around us.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It really is.
It's like we're finally starting to appreciate the true genius of nature.
Okay, so to bring things down to earth a little bit,
Okay.
let's talk about the atmospheric energy harvester pole,
A more practical design.
but still based on those same bio-inspired principles.
Right. So this pole design gives us a good idea of how we could actually build one of these harvesters.
So what are the main components?
Well, first you have the charge collection layer at the top of the pole.
And that's where the magic happens, right?
It's where the charge is collected from the atmosphere.
So what's it made of?
A copper mesh network.
For conductivity,
Right. A coating of titanium dioxide nanoparticles.
to enhance charge transfer,
And a layer of graphene-enhanced conductive polymer.
to make it super efficient.
Exactly. Yeah. And all of that is connected to a high-impedance charge amplifier.
To boost those weak electrical signals.
Right. So we can actually use those
And then where does the charge go?
to the charge storage and regulation system.
Okay.
Which includes high-voltage supercapacitors.
To store the energy.
Right. A diode bridge to prevent backflow
And a charge regulation circuit.
with a buffer, a converter, and an MPPT module.
MPPT stands for maximum power point tracking, right?
That's right. Make sure we're getting the most energy possible.
So it's like a smart energy manager.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about grounding?
That's super important.
Just like it is for plants.
This design uses a copper-clad grounding rod driven deep into the earth.
To establish that connection.
Right. And radial ground wires extend outward from the base.
To make it extra safe.
Exactly.
Okay, and the final step.
Energy conversion and output.
So how do we actually use the energy that's been collected and stored?
A high-voltage to low-voltage converter steps down the DC charge to a usable level.
And then we can either use it directly.
Or store it in a battery bank.
And if we need AC power.
We can use an inverter to convert the DC to AC.
So it's a pretty versatile system.
Able to meet a variety of energy needs.
And all thanks to the inspiration we get from plants.
It's truly amazing what we can accomplish when we look to nature for guidance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive.
What are big takeaways?
Well, it seems like those spikes and needles and branching patterns.
The things we usually think of as just for defense or survival.
They might actually be part of a much more sophisticated system.
A system for interacting with and managing electrical energy.
And that means plants are not just passive receivers of sunlight and nutrients,
They're active participants in their electrical environment,
constantly sensing and responding to the charges around them.
and maybe even using those charges to their advantage.
It's a whole new way of looking at the plant kingdom.
And it has profound implications for how we understand life itself.
Because if plants are doing this,
What other organisms might be doing something similar?
what other hidden electrical interactions are happening all around us?
It's a question that begs to be explored,
It really does.
and it challenges us to rethink our traditional views of evolution and natural selection.
Because maybe electrical optimization is just as important as physical adaptation.
It's a fascinating and potentially revolutionary concept.
So the next time you see a plant,
Don't just see its physical form.
go look deeper.
See its electrical connections.
Imagine its energy flows.
And consider the amazing possibilities that emerge when we tap into the subtle electrical dance of life.
It's a whole new world waiting to be discovered.
And we're just beginning to scratch the surface.
So keep exploring
Keep questioning,
and keep your mind open to the wonders of the natural world.
because there's always more to learn
And who knows what amazing discoveries await us.
as we delve deeper into the mysteries of life's electrical secrets.